Welcome back to the one-on-one series, everybody. I'm your host, Michael Bauer. We have a very special guest tonight. You all know him. You all love him. We got Scott Fish on. You can find him on Twitter at ScottFish24. Scott, good evening. How are you tonight?
I'm doing good. Thanks for having me on. This is I like these kind of shows. These are my favorite kind of shows to go on.
Yeah, no prep. Just basically
Yeah.
just coming in, shooting the breeze. I like stuff
Yep.
like that too. But then I find every time I get asked to go on a no prep show, someone's like, well, what are your rankings for this specific position? I'm like, hey, you said no prep, but I'm not going to ask you any of that stuff. So before we get started, though, I like to give people just a little bit of time. Let's say someone's watching this that they don't know who you are. Tell them who you are and what you do.
Sure. My name is Scott Fish at ScottFish24 on Twitter. My full-time real-life job is running a commissioner service. I run Dynasty leagues, redraft leagues, lots of fun, unique leagues. Over 1,000 leagues I run for my full-time job. We're licensed and registered in more states than any other operator. So I run fantasy contests, but the reason most people know me nowadays is the Scott Fish Bowl. It's a giant tournament with analysts, celebrities, fans that we all get together. This big community event. We raise money for charities. We do a lot of good. It's quite a fantastic event. Honestly, I never thought it would get to this point.
I mean, I guess if it wasn't your full-time job, just doing Scott Fishbowl alone would almost have to be, right?
I could probably turn it into my full-time job, between fantasy cares and the fishbowl and stuff. I could figure out a way to make just that my full-time job if I really pushed it.
The amount of just organization that you have to go through to get something like that off the ground. First of all, kudos to you for doing it because I don't
Uh-huh.
think it's something I could do. I'm not that organized of a guy. But before we get into that, I actually wanted to talk to you a little bit. You have a podcast that you do as well with Ryan McDowell.
Yeah.
That's called Commission Impossible. It's one of my
Yep.
favorite podcasts, actually. I do commission a few leagues, so this kind of gives me ideas on how to keep things flowing naturally and just keep your league mates interested and keep everything active. But you did an episode where you touched on how you get licensed in all these different states.
Yeah.
And wow,
That
wow.
was an interesting episode. It's one of those episodes I think it doesn't affect 99% of the people that listen, but a lot of people found it really interesting, I think.
I did, and because it's one of those things, you always get, "Hey, play, DFS on this app." Well, it doesn't work in my state. Why doesn't it
Yeah.
work in my state? And the things that you're telling me, like certain states, you have to pay crazy amount of money just to even get the
Yep.
license, and
Yeah.
so you live in,
There's one state, Virginia, you have to pay $50,000 just to even apply. Like that's before you go through anything. There's some pretty ridiculous ones out there.
so do they not have any DFS sites there then, I would imagine?
No, the big dogs are in there. We're in there for our stuff. The main, the bigger sites generally are okay paying it, especially for a state like Virginia where there's a lot of users. There's a lot of fantasy players in Virginia.
Yeah, well, that's good. So,
A state like Delaware, maybe not so much. People might shy away because the costs are a little too much.
and it's crazy too for those people that live on the border. They can just kind of travel across, like, "I'm gonna
Yep,
set my lineups here," but I don't know how that works.
absolutely.
If you win money, do you have to go back across the
Nope. It's physical location, just like Vegas. Like I live in Minnesota. I can't bet on the Vikings to win the Super Bowl here, but if I go to Vegas and I place that bet legally in Vegas and I come back to Minnesota, I can still win that bet and claim that money. It's where you enter the fantasy contest, where you enter the legal bet. So if my state is banned and I go on vacation, I can enter a contest. I'm still good to win that money. I'm still good to play in that contest. It's where you enter the contest.
And when you run a lot of these contests, you cannot participate in them, correct?
Not not just can I not participate in them. I can't participate in contests anywhere. If you run fantasy contests legally, I can't play on Underdog. I can't play on FFPC or DraftKings or FanDuel or anything. I can't play anywhere since Ethan Haskell's incident between DraftKings and FanDuel. None of us, any full-time employee running contests, you can't play anywhere.
Wow, that's
Yeah.
crazy. I mean, I guess I kind of get it conflict of interest. But
Yeah.
hey, this is
They
supposed to
think
be
you have
about.
some kind of inside info that we don't also. That's the main concern states have.
So I know tonight was supposed to be about you. Can I just one quick Vikings question for you?
Sure.
How did you feel about the Kellen Mond pick?
Yeah, see, I think he's like a poor man's Kirk Cousins. Like I feel like we got like I think we drafted a backup, but we drafted him super high. I think there was a lot of buzz in the cities here to draft a guy like Davis Mills who had a little more, maybe a higher ceiling or something. I don't know. It's okay. I guess we needed a backup, but Kirk Cousins is so much money for the next 2 years. He's not going to see the field unless there's a major injury. I feel like we got a backup as a second rounder. We spent a second round pick on a backup, basically.
Yeah, that's rough, man. Trust me, I'm an Eagles fan, so
Yeah.
you drafted Jalen Hurts, and now I have to
Uh-huh.
like the guy. Good times over here in Eastern Pennsylvania. Let me tell you that. All right, so I want to talk a little bit. Let's talk about the Scott Fish Bowl. That's what you are best known for, I would like to say. So, what
Yeah.
inspired you to start the Scott Fish Bowl? And I believe it was not called that when you first started it, correct?
No. It was called the FF Oasis Invitational. At the time, I ran a site called FF Oasis, which actually was, popular. It got really good traction because I made my hay in the industry as basically the only Devi guy out there for a long time. Like I
You're
had
the guy
the
that
first.
started Devi.
Yeah. I had the first Devi podcast, the first Devi site, the first Devi rankings. And for a while, I was like the only guy. If you wanted Devi information, that was me. And our site was, PPR when PPR wasn't like the natural thing on most sites. We had IDP IDP still hasn't grown a whole lot over the last decade, but like we focused on things that were kind of niche markets, and so we got fairly popular, and we created this reader tournament, reader leagues, for our fans of our site, our listeners and readers. And it was the FF Oasis Invitational for a couple of years. We grabbed industry analysts like Mike Clay and Jeff Hasley and like a bunch of people that maybe you remember, maybe you don't, from a bunch of different sites. And it started out small like that, but each year more and more and more people wanted to play. And we're 10 years in now, in year 11 we're coming into, and it's just exploded.
So, as far as getting into the Scott Fish Bowl,
Yeah.
prior year's performance doesn't affect if you get selected again, right?
No, nope,
Okay.
not at all.
I was going to say that's probably why I got an invitation this year, which thank you. It's one of those things where I thought I drafted well and my team was going okay, and then it was just one injury after another. And it's
Yeah.
like, oh, and, Scott Fish Bowl is interesting too, because obviously a lot of the analysts that are in it are dynasty analysts. The Scott Fish Bowl goes against everything that dynasty players are. And by
Yeah.
that, I mean, I don't like anybody here. You have to make a draft pick.
Yeah.
And, it's like, this is, and you understand what I'm saying. Like, a lot of guys be like, I don't like anybody here. I'm just going to trade back. I'm going to get
Yeah.
some value later in the round
Yep.
or the next round. So you understand what I'm saying there.
Yep.
I actually wanted to go back to what you touched on previously. Why do you think IDP hasn't caught on yet?
Wow, that's an interesting, very difficult question. I was actually talking to Matthew Berry about this just the other day. That he was like, we were on a panel together, and he mentioned this, that ESPN, only 2% of their leagues are IDP, and I don't think it's prominently featured as something or easily done on sites like Yahoo and CBS, or well, at least the free ones like Yahoo and ESPN. It's not easily made. Like their defaults are not that. So anything the defaults are going to become much, much more popular. I will say on MFL, it's closer to 10%. On Sleeper right now, it's like 12 to 16%. So I think the places where it's easier to create, it's becoming more popular. And that's the great thing about a thing like Sleeper, because Sleeper is really, really growing. And I think IDP might start to catch on more and more because an app like Sleeper, you can create that IDP league so much smoother, so much easier. So, it's been a 10-year span where that IDP percentage has been about 10%. It hasn't grown. The number of people playing has grown, but the percentage has not grown. But I think now that we have things like Sleeper where it's easier to make an IDP league, I think we're going to start to see a little bit of growth there. And as you know, things like that, once they start catching on, they start to move fast because people really like it. But I really don't have a great answer for it. I guess it's the platforms in
So
honesty.
here would be a good thing to do as a commissioner. If you have a league, a lot of leagues are like, I want to get rid of kickers. Okay, and that seems to be the new thing. Let's hate kickers, and we're going to touch on that in a second. So if you're a commissioner and your league mates say to you, "Hey, I want to get rid of kickers," okay, why don't we put in one IDP flex spot, right? And
Sure.
it could be anybody, and then people are going to learn like you don't want Jalen Ramsey necessarily. He's a big name and he's a great defensive player,
Yep.
but he's not going to get you a lot of points. He's not going to get a lot of tackles. Interceptions are going to be spotty, so on, so on, so
Yeah.
on. Our producer and IDP guru, Bob Van Duzer, is backstage rubbing his hands, nodding right now. He's very happy with all the IDP talk.
It's a learning curve. It is. That's the thing. It's a learning curve, and your casual player doesn't. They want simple and easy and play in their work leagues, and that's part of the problem.
And this is also why redraft is still king.
Yep.
Because, like you said, a lot of people, they're not all like us where we need to go 365 24/7. It's right now it's May and we're still grinding film. Some guys that we missed pre-draft that we're doing for our Patreon. So we're talking about these guys, but not everybody does that. Some people get into the full swing in July, and that's
Yep.
fine too. So I want to talk to you about Scott Fishbowl and scoring settings.
Sure.
How do you come up with these different? Now, I know on one of the commish pods, you said that for the most part, the base lineup for Scott Fishbowl has been the same for a few years now, but you're
Yeah.
adding the ability to flex kickers. So this is going to be a two-part question. Why flex kickers? I guess why not is a good answer. And how do you come up with your unique scoring every year?
So my scoring has been a constant quest to balance out the positions so evenly that every draft just creates chaos. You can employ any strategy you want and come out of it fairly happy. And and every draft can look very different. So I've pushed myself to try to find balance, and that's my number one goal with the scoring. But each year I want to find a tweak that will get people talking, or a tweak that people can take to their own leagues, or just make conversations and happen. And one year we had a video game theme. I added like these huge bonuses for like things you could score in a game for that theme. Like in achievements in video games, you get big bonuses. I made bonus scoring in that one. One year I really pushed points per first down as, hey, this is an alternative out there that people can bring into their leagues as something that matters in the game. And it had a little push after that. It was all over a lot of sites. And last year I decided, hey, guess what? You can make quarterback scoring so that bad quarterbacks actually score really bad and you don't want them in your lineup. And it's a way that in a super flex league, maybe you don't want to flex a quarterback. I wanted to throw that conversation out there, tell people you can do this to like separate the tiers of quarterbacks so that, good quarterbacks score good and bad quarterbacks score bad. And this one, I know there's a lot of people out there that love kickers and people that hate kickers, and there's analysts on both sides of that fence. And so I want them to play it out on the field of battle. I want people to be able to flex kickers if they want to. The kicker lovers can do that. The ones who don't like kickers can avoid them, and we'll see how it goes. They can have that conversation.
So are we counting punters as kickers too?
Yeah, I don't think that's going to happen in this one. I wish there was I know Pat McAfee has talked about ways to score punters that, would be pretty awesome. But I don't know how to fully go through that scoring yet to make it perfect.
If you need that, my very first Dynasty League, we had punters. I can go back to that MFL page and bring up the scoring for you. So I can tell you how to make it so that it's workable, but not too crazy. So
yeah,
is that
I played in leagues with punters and played in leagues where you like work your way to trying to figure out how to score offensive lines. But yeah, it's not something I'm going to dig into for this year.
would that's something you'd be open to in the future though, possibly,
I'm
right?
open to just about anything if it's something I think could be valuable, either to people paying attention to the league on shows or something I want to push forth in the industry. That's another thing. The scoring and settings have to be something that people can quickly talk about on radio or podcasts or whatever. So I can't get too crazy. I have to have it simplistic enough that your casual listener can, appreciate it and try to understand it.
Yeah, that makes sense. So I want to talk to you also how the selection process. Obviously,
Yeah.
what's the total number of people that participate in this year's Scott Fish Bowl 11?
This year's, we don't have a specific number. We have two numbers that we are looking at, Ryan and I. We think we've settled on it, but we don't really want to say just in case we decide not to do that. But it's going to be more than last year. It feels like we increase every year, but the industry keeps increasing, and we get 10,000 plus signups every year. So we feel bad that so many can't get in. But it's going to be larger than last year. That's for sure.
Okay. So how do you manage that selection process? Because I'm assuming you now, is it just you and Ryan that do that, or do you have
Yeah.
people?
No, it's just me and Ryan. It's Ryan likes to joke that I do like 90% of the work and he does 10%. I don't know that that's fair, but it's without Ryan. Ryan's so helpful with this, but yeah, the selection process is the first thing we do is we go through all the analysts, and the ones that we can quickly identify as definitely still an analyst and definitely with the site that they signed up with. We get them in right away. Your major people that people want to play with. That's why that first wave is like 400 or 500. It's this list that we know that they're good to go. They're actually who they say they are, and every wave after that just gets tougher and tougher, having to verify that these people are with the sites they're still with. And we have a random fan button that we just press it and it puts a random fan in SFP, which is always fun. The database I've set up tells me how many years people have played, if they've never played, how many years they've been signing up, stuff like that. That stuff factors in. We try to run a lot of contests. We try to give away spots for people to run contests. There's lots of ways to get in, but the selection process, it's grueling, and that's why I do it in waves. But it's turned out great because doing it in waves like that creates a massive wave of excitement, like on random days, which is kind of fun.
Yeah. So if you tag Scott and say thank you on Twitter, he may or may not see it. I'm sure you open your phone and the notifications that you have are just insane, right?
There's absolutely no way to keep up. Yeah, right. Neither Ryan nor I on a day right after we release a wave. I won't lie. There have been times in the past where I've sent out a wave and I just don't even look at my phone. Like I don't even. I try to scroll through them sometimes, but yeah, we'll miss a lot.
It happens. There was a day we released a video that did really well, and it was just things were blowing up. And it was a day
Yeah.
where I also promised my wife I wouldn't be doing anything fantasy related.
Oh,
So it's like I keep hearing it go ding, 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 ding. And I'm like, okay, so this is why my phone's usually on silent. So I'm just gonna put it on silent. I'm gonna put it over here and I'll look at that later. So it's one of those types of
yeah.
deals. So
Yep. I try to scroll through. I put it on the mentions instead of the all, so I don't see the retweets and the likes and stuff. And I scroll through and I can't respond to them. I can't respond to all that, but I try to scroll through and read them. Like I want to be cognizant of what people are saying.
no,
But
that's great. I mean,
I
this
give
is
an
all
effort.
I want to talk to you. You do a lot of work with charities, and that's mostly fantasy cares, correct?
Yeah. Well, now we just we stopped taking any money in for Fantasy Cares a year or two ago, and I push people to donate to what they're passionate about. I feel that I've been going on shows for a decade trying to get people give money to charity from your league, like have it be one of the entry fees or have it the winner choose. Like I've tagged appearances with that for a decade. And now I'm just trying to push people to do that with whatever they are passionate about because they'll feel more connected to it and maybe they'll bring it to their home league. But we do have the potathon that they kind of use as like a GoFundMe or PayPal pool, I believe, that they raise money for us to do the Toys for Tots shopping. The T-shirt sales, that money goes to Toys for Tots shopping, and John Bosch does these eliminators. Also, I believe this year it's also going to be a PayPal pool where money will go to Toys for Tots, and we also do like food banks, and we've done other things. But yeah, it's mostly Toys for Tots, but we do other charities as well.
Yeah. So anyone that don't ever badmouth Scott and say, I didn't get in the Scott Fishbowl, what the F, stuff like that. Like, he's a busy guy and he cares. He's giving back to the community. That's giving him a lot as well. So keep that in mind.
I try really hard to get as many people in as I can.
Yeah. Hey, you can't have everybody in, obviously. It's just that's how it works. But back to Commish Pod, that's a really different thing. It's the only commissioner-based podcast that I know of. How did that come about?
Yeah, that was just me and Ryan. One day, Ryan McDowell and I were like, we were talking. We had this really long conversation about different commit settings and stuff like that, and we're like, why isn't this a podcast? Why isn't this out there? And we just decided to make it. And it's been 4.5 years now, and we only do an episode every couple weeks. We don't do them during the season because commissioners aren't doing stuff during the season very much for like setting up leagues and whatnot. Yeah, they're running the league. So, but we just wanted to get that out there, and it turned into this amazingly popular thing that we didn't expect. Like commissioners and league mates from all over sending us emails, and the great thing about it is it's evergreen. Like this show would be pretty evergreen, but most of your fantasy shows aren't evergreen. You can't like Commission Impossible. You can go back from day one and listen to all 66 episodes, and you can get valid info from any one of them that still applies today, which is just incredible.
Yeah, that's actually, so I found out about it a few months ago. So I'm going back and, like when a new one comes out, I listen to it pretty much right away, unless I'm like halfway through a podcast. But then if I'm all out of podcasts to listen to, I go back and I listen to an older episode, and I just kind of keep, and then one day I'll be doing yard work for a few hours. So I have my headphones in and I get caught up on a bunch of stuff. So
that's awesome.
It is a great show. I do love it. It's two great guys that I have a lot of respect for. So it's a good show. And the good thing is if I ever have any commissioner problems, I'm going to hit one of you guys up.
Nice. I like it.
Hey, how do you get your league mates to switch up a stagnant league? And this is something that I have a really hard time with as a commissioner. Like, there's some leagues that, let's be real, they're trash.
Yeah. Right? Yep.
Let's try this. Let's try that. No. Come on, we have to do something here.
Yeah. Yeah, that's probably one of our biggest questions. And we've tried to answer it many different ways. And some things just aren't going to work for some leagues because what matters is the owners. And if the owners aren't into it, if they don't buy in, it's probably not going to work. I've had a rivalry setting that's amazing in this one league where you pick rivals, you draft rivals, and it adds a little bit of flavor to 1 week each year. And it's worked amazing in one league, and then it doesn't work at all in the other league. That's one way to spice something up that it doesn't work with some owners. And like you can try to create, you can listen to the show and try to throw in any of the settings you hear. But if the owners don't buy in, they just don't buy in. We had a show the other day on a wrestling theme league where there's a bunch of different things you could take and add to your league. And if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. Like you take a steel chair to your opponent, you get to choose 1 week a year to take it, and they lose 20 points. They automatically start the game at -20. That's a fun little wrinkle. But if your owners aren't buying in, they're not buying in. So unfortunately, the answer is we give a bunch of different ideas on the show that you can bring to your league. Some of them will work, some of them won't. It all depends on the owners. And that's a crappy part, because if your owners are really, really stagnant and don't want to buy into any of them, you're in a really tough spot.
I guess you could think of it like fantasy leagues are a lot like a relationship. You could try as much as you want, but not every single one's going to work out, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Yeah, you try, and that's really all you can do. So back to SFB real quick. How do you manage that whole, like, in season? Is that hard for you to manage, or what? Let's say people are timing out during the draft.
In season is the easiest time for SFB. It's the tough time is leading up to the draft and like the first couple days of the draft. That's when it's difficult. Once everybody has made a pick in all the drafts, from that point until I start the next SFB is just coasting. It's not difficult at all. No, it's it's actually pretty easy. It's the setup that's the tough part. And the toughest part is making the divisions, because everybody has their draft spot preference. Everybody has, they're for a site, and I don't want to put two people from the same site in the same division. Everybody has a preference for what like division title they want, and people have preferences for who they want to play with. And sometimes there's people that they don't want to play with, and trying to organize that is by far the most difficult part. If it was like the megalodon that the footballers do, and you just ram everybody into 12-team divisions, it doesn't matter, just push them in, I could run a 20,000 team tournament like without even dripping, not even a drop of sweat, but because of the way I really try to personalize the SFB tournament, and that's not, I didn't mean that as a slight or anything to the footballers, megalodon. I've met Andy, Jason, and Mike many times. Love them. We hung out. We're friends. We're friends in real life. And no, I love their tournament. What I'm saying is, if I could just shove everybody in and have the leagues run, I could run it so much smoother. It's making those divisions that is one of the hardest parts.
So for the record, I want to say I'm pretty easy. When it came to filling out the preferences, I didn't select a single one. I didn't select any draft position. I didn't select any difference. I don't care who I play with. It's just you put me where you need me, basically.
Right.
You know what I mean? And I hope that makes it easier for you. You know what I mean? Like, because I don't care. I'm just happy to be there.
Yeah.
To be perfectly honest, like I'm thrilled. I'm honored to represent the Dynasty Rewind as the host. So hopefully I show out a little bit better than I did last year. But
it helps. The best for me is when there's a mix. There's like half of the people want what they want and half don't care. That makes it so much easier. Like if too many wanted something, that's where I get problems.
Yeah, exactly. Because you can't make everyone happy, and then people are going to, it's like, relax. Just relax. Everything's good. Last question before I let you go. Any other podcasts or radio work that you do that you want to tell people about?
Sure. You mentioned Commission Impossible, but I'm also on Fantasy Football Weekly. It's the longest running to test terrestrial. Wow, I can't say words today. Terrestrial. What is that terrestrial?
I'm not even going to try to say it now because I'm going to screw it up.
Yeah.
I think it's terrestrial.
Right? Yes, thank you. That. Wow. It's been a long day. Radio show in the country. It's entering year 27 or 28, I believe. So it's been going since 27. I think this upcoming year is year 27, if I remember correctly. I do that with Paul Charchian and Matt Harrison and Brian Johnson. It's one heck of a show. It's on iHeartRadio, and it's syndicated all over the country. That's the only other main one I do now.
That 27 years, man, that's longer than a lot of these fantasy analysts have been alive.
Yeah. Terrestrial. I can say it now.
You say it when it doesn't count, right?
Exactly. Yep.
God, thank you again for joining us. It's been fantastic. We tried to link up a few times before, but just your schedule, my schedule, it hasn't worked. You're a busy guy. I'm a busy guy. So, hey, hats off to you, man, for being able to manage everything that you do. I got to say, I'm impressed. I would love to be able to do it. My wife would kill me, full disclosure.
Yeah.
I tried to run a tournament like that.
I'm surprised my wife hasn't either so far.
I mean, my wife's pretty good. I tell her, hey, this is really important to me. Okay, fine. You know how it goes. So, but Scott, again, why don't you tell everybody where they can find you?
Sure. You can at ScottFish24 on Twitter. That's where I post everything for my full-time job, SFB, everything. Sign up for Scott Fishbowl, scottfishbowl.com. If you don't sign up, I can't get you in. Like, don't complain to me if you're not getting an invite if you didn't sign up. That's step one.
I feel like there's a lot of people that are kind of new to this space that are like, well, why haven't I gotten my invite yet? Well, you need to go to the website. And also, hats off to how organized you are for everything, because I feel like if I tried to do something like this, it would be an epic disaster.
Yeah.
Just
Yeah.
pull it together.
It takes a lot of organization. No question. Thanks.
Well, hey, kudos to you for SFB and everything else that you do. And for Scott, I'm the host, Michael Bauer. Thank you again for hanging out on this latest one-on-one. Check out our YouTube page, mock drafts every Monday. This show drops every Friday. Sorry we missed the week. Scheduling conflicts, apartments getting demoed and renovated, not here, elsewhere. But we'll be back with that guest. So check us out everywhere you can. And until next time, everyone, be kind, please rewind. Thank you for watching.
Thanks for listening to the Dynasty Rewind. Please make sure you subscribe, rate, and review. And as always, be kind, please rewind.